Now that was anticlimactic, wasn't it? Who ain't see that coming? Hello, 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 and welcome to the Core Dog Experience, where I talk Ohio State Buckeyes, talking Buckeyes from the fans' point of view. So if you're liking it, please hit the like button. If you enjoy Buckeye content in general, please subscribe. The game has come and went. The 2022 season is over. And it went out with a puff. It went out with a little puff. By who did not see that coming? Who did not see that coming? I mean, good year and all for TCU, but that was so predictable, so predictable. I think everybody knows. Everybody knows the real championship game was the Ohio State Georgia matchup. A shame it had to happen in the semifinals as opposed to actual championship game. But it is what it is. Ohio State messed that up. That's on Ohio State, but just is that really how you want your final game of the season to go out, a 65-7 blowout? That just not bode well for how this played out. But everyone knew Ohio State Georgia was the championship game. The winner of that game was going to be the favorite in the championship game, regardless of who the opponent was. If it would have been an Ohio State Michigan rematch, Ohio State would have been the favorite. They would have been the favorite, according to Vegas. So everyone knew, Vegas included, Ohio State Georgia was the actual championship game. The game itself, they are contractually bound to play it. They had to play it, but we knew what the outcome was going to be before they even stepped on the field. Good season for TCU. Hats off to them. They got there. They got embarrassed, but they got there. And then congrats to Georgia, back to back. What can you say? They did it. They did it. So hats off to them. Hats off to them. They won it. They won the game they needed to win against Ohio State, the real championship game. I don't think that can even be argued now. That was the championship game. But, that concludes the 2022 CFP college football season. They went out with a puff. It went out with a puff. So it's going to be interesting to see what the TV numbers are for that game. Because we know what the numbers were for the Ohio State-Georgia game. Historic numbers. Historic numbers for a CFP game between Ohio State and Georgia. You can say, all the other fan bases can say what they want about Ohio State, but when Ohio State's in the game, TV ratings go up, viewership goes up, and we help sell out stadiums because our fans travel. Our fans travel. We put eyes on the tube. Hate us or like us, people tune in to watch Ohio State. Period. And I know we talk a lot about certain colleges or folks getting benefits of the doubts one way or another. Anytime it comes down to something like that and Ohio State's involved, those numbers come into play. So that's one thing that's going to work in our favor more times than not. We increase TV ratings, we put viewership eyes on the tube, and that's, folks may not think it plays a role, but it plays a role. It does. It does. The only folks that were more happier that Utah beat USC outside of Ohio State were the ESPN executives. I lie. When Utah beat USC, the only ones jumping up and down besides Ohio State fans were the ESPN executives. I guarantee it. As good as SC is, they don't bring the eyes. Their fan base don't covet the reaction that Ohio State does, and I think the ratings there, the viewership speaks for itself. ESPN. They were happy when Utah beat SC. Make no mistake about it. Only one's happier than Ohio State, where ESPN executives, cause hey, they want us in the game. They want us in the game. They just don't want us to win it. Y'all know I lie. They want us in the game for that. For those, you see those ratings, that viewership right there. ESPN, they want us in the game, but damn if we win it. they don't want us to win it, but they want us in the game. They want us in the game. You know, any chance ESPN has the opportunity to get back at the Big Ten, they gonna do it. They gonna do it. You don't think they still mad about the Big Ten network? We started our own network. They gave ESPN the finger. Signed our deal with Fox. They gave ESPN the finger. So every chance ESPN has to give the finger back to the Big Ten, oh, best believe they gonna do it. They gonna do it. They gonna protect their brand. Like I said, they want us in the game. They were ecstatic Ohio State was in the game, made the playoffs. They just don't want us to win it. They just don't want us to win it. So it is what it is. What it is. It's just that ESPN, SEC, back and forth with the Big Ten Network, and Fox. So you know, that's his brother's opinion. Proof to the point. Protecting their brand in the final ESPN rankings. Guess who shot up to number 2? Yeah, Alabama shot up to number 2. Who ain't see that coming? I can't blame them. I don't know. I can't blame them. I guess it's a logical choice. I mean, Ohio State came in at number 4. We moved up actually. So hey, for what it's worth, we moved up to 4 to number 3. You know, we did lose our last 2 games, but you know they slotted Alabama into the number 2 spot, and then you know the AP ranking still got us at number 4. Why is AP? Why do y'all even still rank football? Just stick to basketball. Y'all have more relevance there than football. just stop y'all football rankings. They don't make any sense. Go keep out. I don't know. That's just me. But yeah, it was anticlimactic championship game. They were contractually bound to play the game. They had to play it. You know, the teams had to show up. They had to play it. But we already knew the outcome before the first kickoff. I'm sure once it became evident that was going to be a blowout, which didn't take too long, I'm sure I'll be interested to see what the final ratings are for that game. Being that it was a blowout, I don't see it's going to be comparable to what the viewership and the ratings the Georgia Ohio State game posted. But you know, at the end of the day, Georgia won it. ESPN got their winner. Good job, ESPN. Good job. And not to take nothing away from Georgia, they were a good team. I think they deserved it. They deserved it. So again, congrats to Georgia, not trying to take anything away from Georgia and what they accomplished this year. The only team to win back-to-back in the CFP era, so good for them on accomplishing that. But the thing came after the game, what was the more disappointing loss? Because a lot of Ohio State fans were now seeing how that championship game played out. Oh yeah, you best believe the woulda, coulda, shouldas started raining in. That could have been us lifting the trophy, because just compared to 2 games, Georgia, they are sweating out us missing the field goal and get past Ohio State, and their game with TCU was virtually over in the first quarter. So you know, us Buckeye fans, what could have been if that had been us in the championship game. And a lot of folks saying that was the most disappointing loss of the season, factoring in how the season played out and how that championship game played out. But I would argue that as heartbreaking and disappointing that Georgia loss was, being that we were up by 14 points with about 10 minutes to go. We couldn't hold it. I would still argue that the Michigan loss was more devastating, it was more damaging, and it cost us a whole lot more. Now, stay with me now. Stay with me now. The Georgia loss was bad, but it really shouldn't have came to that. We shouldn't have been playing Georgia in the semifinals. We really shouldn't have been. If we had taken care of our business against Michigan, the game that everybody wanted to see, the game we saw in the semifinals, most likely that takes place in the finals. That's why I think the Michigan loss was way more devastating and disappointing than the Georgia loss. Because look what the Michigan loss cost us. First of all, we lost at home to Michigan 2 years in a row now. So we lost Michigan, which is devastating. Almost that by itself is devastating right there. Losing to Michigan on your home field, for the second year in a row. You got that. That Michigan loss, in my opinion, cost C.J. Stroud the Heisman Trophy. He beats Michigan. He finishes the regular season undefeated. C.J. Stroud is the Heisman. Georgia didn't cost C.J. Stroud the Heisman. Michigan loss cost C.J. Stroud the Heisman, in my opinion. It cost us the number 2 seed in the playoffs. It cost us the number 2 seed in the playoffs. Michigan would not have been the number 2 seed. Ohio State would have been the number 2 seed. And in all likelihood, we would have been playing TCU in that CFP semifinal game, not Georgia. We would have been playing TCU. And I'm sure we would have done what Michigan couldn't do, and that would beat TCU. I'm pretty sure we would have beaten TCU, given the way we played against Georgia. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we would have been the number 2 seed. In all likelihood, we would have played TCU. Michigan loss cost us the number 2 seed. We had to sweat it out. We were lucky to get in. Let's face it, y'all. SC wins, we're not even in the playoffs. That's why that Michigan loss was devastating to, in my opinion, much more than the Georgia game. Utah gave us a bonus. They gave us a do-over. That was like a Melican. So that's where the Michigan loss just cost us, in my opinion, a whole lot more than the Georgia loss. We had to rely on other people to get in to the playoffs following the Michigan loss. Not only that, losing to Michigan, like I said, in all likelihood, we would have been playing TCU, and then you would have had that debate between Michigan and Alabama. Alabama, like I said in previous post, Alabama was never going to jump Ohio State because of that win over Notre Dame. That win over Notre Dame became so important down the stretch. Just don't know how important that win became, especially after Notre Dame thumped Clemson. Once Notre Dame beat Clemson in the fashion they did, that made Ohio State's resume that much stronger. It solidified the resume over anything Alabama folks want to argue, say, yada, yada, yada. They are never going to jump Ohio State. Michigan, on the other hand, had they lost to Ohio State, their non-conference schedule was pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. And I could have easily have seen them leapfrogging Alabama over Michigan, because Michigan didn't have that cushion of a viable, good non-conference win like Ohio State had. So that would have been an interesting debate. And talking ESPN bias, it would have been a lot more easy to justify Bama jumping Michigan than Bama jumping Ohio State, which they didn't do. And then you would have had in my world, if Ohio State had beaten Michigan, which is to me why that Michigan loss is so much more damaging and so much more worse than us losing to Georgia, because it just wiped out a lot of stuff. But had Ohio State beaten Michigan, we're the number 2 seed. Michigan, they probably don't even make the playoffs in Core Dogs world. They don't make the playoffs. Bama slides into that number 4 spot, and then you got Bama. Then you got the SEC powers going at it in the semifinals, and we'll be waiting for the winner of that game in the championship game. because TCU's not beating us like they did Michigan. You would have had Bama and Alabama going at it. In my scenario, and you would have had Ohio State and TCU going at it, unless the ESPN folks would have found a way to slide Bama in front of TCU. Who knows? But but that's why I just think that Michigan loss was so much more worse than the Georgia loss. I think it cost Ohio State so much more than that Georgia loss. Georgia loss just basically cost us a spot in the championship game. The Michigan loss cost us the number 2 seed, cost C.J. Stroud the Heisman. It cost way much. It was way more damaging in my opinion. And then and then lastly, just me personally, us losing to Michigan allowed Desmond Howard to keep on with his little annoying, smirking. As annoying as Mark May was, Desmond Howard is 10 times worse because ESPN gives him a bigger platform to say his stupid crap. He there at the Heisman ceremony cracking on C.J. Stroud, yada, yada, yada. So just that in of itself is just why that loss to Michigan was just called the Desmond Howard's punk behind. But I think it was, but as bad as the Georgia loss was, I think that Michigan loss cost Ohio State a whole lot more. It'll be interesting what your thoughts on that. I know on social media, a lot of people think the Georgia loss was that much more frustrating, being how they just dominated TCU. And my argument is it shouldn't never have come to that. If we had beaten Michigan and handled our business against Michigan. We didn't do it. It is what it is. Boom. That's why I think the Michigan loss was way, way worse. That's it. That's all I'll say about the game. That's all I'm going to say about that. Moving on. 2022, like I said, has come and gone. Georgia is your champions. So for Ohio State specifically, was 2022 a successful season? And keep in mind, the standard at Ohio State, pretty much ever since Tim Tressel got here, even taking the new heights once Urban Meyer got here, the standard at Ohio State is insanely high. Insanely high to be deemed a successful season. First and foremost, what do you got to be a successful season here at the Ohio State University? The big goals: beat Michigan, win the division, win the conference, go to CFP, go to the game, CFP, win the CFP game, and go to the national championship game. Of course, the Holy Grail, win the championship. When you go down the list, you can't check many of those boxes off. That loss to Michigan killed 3 of those right there. Damn near 4. Didn't beat Michigan. Didn't win the division. Didn't win the conference. If you do all those and beat USC, we don't make the CFP playoffs. We don't make the playoffs. Given that mulligan, we still had the opportunity to win a game. Couldn't do that. So when you look at the big picture, yeah, it was 11-2. Good season. Great season by the standards of many. About 95% of the teams would kill for that type of season. But this is the Ohio State University. We fell short of our goals and expectations. We fell short. Ain't no other way to say it. We fell short. Successful season on the big scheme of things? Oh, hell no. It was a good season. Borderline great season. We made the playoffs. Only thing that would have salvaged this season after losing to Michigan was winning everything. And we fell short of that. So I cannot say this was a successful season. It just wasn't. Our standards are up here. We about right here. We ain't get up there. We about right here. Almost got there, but we about right here. Not there. We out here. This Ohio State. We up here. You know, a lot of teams they be ecstatic with this being about right here. Ohio State, nah. We fell short. We fell short. Don't get me wrong. It was a great season. 11-2 is always going to be a great season. Double-digit wins. That's a lot of goal for a lot of teams. Just have double-digit wins. Ohio State has an insanely long streak of double-digit wins. I don't think that's even a question anymore at Ohio State. Are we going to have double-digit wins? You can almost pencil us in for double-digit wins every season. I can't remember last time we had 3 losses in the season. You going way back, way back. So insanely high standards. Beat Michigan, win the division, win the conference, win the CFP game, make the championship game. We fell short and had to get help to get into the playoffs. So by Ryan Day's standard, I don't even think he would say it was a successful season. Good season, great season, definitely successful. Yeah, jury's out on that one. And in my mind, I don't think they would even consider it a successful season. You lost to Michigan. Lost to Michigan. With that said, though, there are some positives. Despite how the season ended on the defensive side of the ball. We brought in Jim Knowles to fix some stuff. A lot of people are not happy with Jim Knowles. I have some of my frustrations with Jim knowing how the defense played down the stretch. But keep in mind, Jim Knowles inherited an absolute mess. Our defense was pitiful, period. I think last year we were outside the top 50 in terms of scoring defense. You name it, every statistical category, we were outside the top 40, 50 maybe. It was pitiful. And the games we lost, we got bullied. Oregon came into Columbus last year and bullied us. Michigan bullied us. They bullied us. A lot of the close games we were in, our defense got bullied a lot. Period. This year, say what you want about those last 2 games, but our defense did not get bullied. He shored up our front 7 considerably. And people need to keep that in mind. We did not get bullied. People didn't run all over us. They didn't do none of that. They got by us on the big chunk plays, in particular those last 2 games. So going into year 2, that's what they got to fix. Maintain what we improved on this year in terms of not getting bullied, getting dirty in the trenches. Focus on that. Don't get bullied. And focus on eliminating the big plays. Maybe we didn't have the corners. Some folks are talking about the corners. You know, the corners Jim Knowles had, he inherited those corners. And yeah, they are four stars for the most part. But maybe they're not fit for the scheme that Jim Knowles wants to run. Hopefully the 2 young fellas they're bringing in this year, they'll fit his scheme better. He wants to play the press coverage. For a long time, we haven't played press coverage for a while. It's a different mentality. So hopefully he's getting the corners in, or he's having some say-so on the corners he wants to bring in, because I think that's our biggest area of need, or our cornerback play. Say what you want about our safeties play good. You know, that Georgia game aside where our boy got beat. But our safeties play good. I'm more concerned about our corners, and maybe our corners did not fit the scheme Jim Knowles wanted to play. So we got 2 new guys coming in with Hunt Simpson and Matthews. So maybe they're more geared towards his scheme, you know, more. But they improved. You know, he's not a magic maker. He's not a magician. He's not a wizard. You know, he's not Gandalf. I'm a Lord of the Rings dude. He's not Gandalf, because he was Gandalf. That fourth quarter against Georgia, he would have started. He would have went out there to the 50-yard line, would have had his staff and said, "You shall not pass." That would have been it. But he ain't. Lord of the Rings. Two Towers is the best of that trilogy, both movie and the book. Two Towers. But he's he's not a wizard. He improved the defense in year one. He can continue to improve it in year two. Limit the chunk plays our defense gives up. And then we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes from there. But that's the one big improvement I have seen. The one thing I think was successful was the improvement of our defense. We need to continue to build on that. I think if anything showed that we can hopefully build on going into next year is our play calling for the majority of that Georgia game. For the 54, 55 minutes of that Georgia game, if we take that game plan approach into next season, if it's Ryan Day or not, because there's word he may give up the play calling, but if we have that aggressive game plan approach going into next year, and I'm assuming it's going to be Kyle McCord, but that's going to be a good QB battle that I will discuss more in my next outing, the 2023 season. Early look. We like how we like doing early stuff, but this is our 2022 wrap up. But if whoever the quarterback is, it's gonna be loaded. If we can fix that defense, we're gonna be right back there again, and it's not giving up those big chunk plays that killed us these last two games, and then Ryan Day. Like I said, I had my issues, and I said I was hoping he could learn, and I think he did learn. I think this is a big learning experience for him. I still think he's the dude that can get us there. But he still had the calls after the game. Fire Ryan Day. We want him gone. This, that, and the other. Again, people, that's not happening. Don't know if y'all just trolling to be trolling, but Ryan Day's not going anywhere. Like I said, with the expansion of the 12 teams, if it gets to a point where we're missing the 12-team playoff field, yeah, fire Ryan Day. But I just don't see in the real world Ohio State's mission missing a playoff field with 12 teams. And so Ryan Day is going to have opportunity to improve himself. But he's not going to wear Jim Harbaugh. That was a different story. I don't know if it's the violations he knew was coming, but I never thought he was going to be there. I actually didn't think he was going to be there this long. I gave him 10 to 12 years, and he's going back to the NFL. The ego's too much for him to stay out of the NFL. Who knows? Maybe that's why he's having these conversations. But going into the thing, I was like, y'all talking about pressure on Ryan Day, but Jim Harbaugh ain't won nothing. What's he won? He ain't won nothing. Michigan on, a 6-7 game losing streak in bowl games? Harbaugh ain't won. He hasn't won that. And this was a game he was supposed to win. After seeing what Georgia did to TCU, that was embarrassing for Michigan to lose to them. And I know they had some calls go their way too, go against them. But that was embarrassing. The game was even that close to begin with. You're supposed to be the number 2 team in the nation, and you lost to TCU after what Georgia did to them. They ought to be thankful TCU made the game and you didn't. I don't know. So I think the pressure is on Harbaugh, especially following that. Might even be more pressure on them now. If Georgia laid that on them, and you guys lost to TCU. Like, who's the pressure on? I don't think Ryan Day has any pressure on him myself, other than the fan base. Some of a small minority, smaller the minority, the more vocal they can get. So I think Ryan Day good. Jim Harbaugh the one you need to look at. I think the pressure is on him, much more so than Ryan Day, than what folks would have you to believe. His record ain't all that good in both games, and so I don't know. Got these folks that are just never. I said back to Ryan Day. We got these folks that are just never happy given his record since he's been here. He's not going to satisfy everybody. Every fan base has those folks. I bet even Bama has their folks that are not happy with anything Nick Saban's done. Every fan base has them. It's inedible. I call that the yeah but crowd. No matter whatever positive you say, you can have that one person. Yeah, but he ain't do this. Yeah, but he ain't do that. I bet there's somebody out there now in that Bama who ain't even happy with their recruiting class. What they bring in 5, 6, 7, 5-star folks. I bet there's that one person. Yeah, but so and so signed with Auburn. We ain't get all of them. All that one fan run. I guarantee you that's in every fan base. They got something negative to say no matter what. And Ryan Day has his fair fair share of folks that like, yeah, but Ryan Day ain't do this. Yeah, but Ryan Day ain't do that. And yeah, like I said, I didn't care for some of his play calling down the stretch, but I'm not all in all. I'm happy with Ryan Day. I think he's kept the pipeline going that Urban Meyer created and started. You know, can he learn from it? Yeah, he can learn, just like Kirby had to learn. A lot of Georgia fans pointed that out. Kirby had to learn some stuff. He had to go through some stuff to get to where he's at now, and hopefully Ryan Day is on that same trajectory. He's learning some stuff, figuring some stuff out now, and he'll better prepare him moving forward. So we will see. We will see what 2023 brings. We got the spring game upcoming. Like Ohio, a lot of like a many Buckeye fans. It's like what we're gonna be doing on our Saturdays now. If you into basketball, that's good. Occupy some of your stuff. Our basketball men's team's alright. They alright. Our women's team though, if you ain't checked out our women's team, look at our women's team. They are killing it right now, ranked number 3. Hopefully they get JC Sheldon back. They get her back to be a potential Final Four team, but we will see. We will see. Football's done. It's time to look at some other stuff. Keep our eye on the periphery. You know, still got some signings. Still keep our eye out on the transfer portal, who we can bring in, and we will look at some of that. My next time out, when I look at my early 2023 outlook and some of the stuff that we can improve on. So again, if you're liking what you're hearing, hit the like button. If you're feeling it, please subscribe, and particularly if you like Buckeye content, please subscribe. Help a brother build this thing out. So until next time, OHIO, go Bucks.